Welcome to Catch the NeoPixel Lesson 2. In this video, we're going to introduce the enemy into our game and then see what we can do to catch the enemy. So let's get to it. So as a quick review, let's see what we have in our code. So we've created a couple of variables to handle the left and right button. We have a variable to track the hero's position as it moves around the Circuit Playground Express. We've cleared the pixels to kind of clear the canvas of the Circuit Playground Express. And we get our input, we've colored our hero, and then amongst these four if statements, we're able to control the hero's rotation around the Circuit Playground Express. So now that we're going to introduce the enemy, we have to create another variable. So let's say enemy equals, and let's start the enemy on the other side of the Circuit Playground Express, so at position 5. So we have a variable to represent the enemy, we have a variable to represent the hero. Let's color the enemy now. And we're going to use enemy here. So remember, these two variables, even though they're called hero and enemy, all they are is just position variables to be used with a set pixel color. And let's make the enemy red. And let's just run that to see that we get both the hero and the enemy on the board at the same time. Alright, so that's us, the hero, and this is the enemy. And as you can see, we can go around the board. But right now, nothing's happening with the enemy. Guess let me use my other hand. We get on top of the enemy, but the enemy's still there. That's what we're going to handle next. But again, this was the first good step, which is simply to have a variable that represents the enemy. So now the question is, what does it mean to catch the enemy? Remember, these are two variables. These variables represent which NeoPixel is lit. So for us to say we catch the enemy means that our position needs to be the same as the enemy. So let's do that. So we'll say if hero equals enemy. That means we landed on them. And for right now, we're just going to keep it simple. Let's do a quick, short play tone. Oops, playground, got ahead of myself. Playground dot play tone, and let's do some low frequency for a very short amount of time. Let's say 1/10 of a second. So I'm going to play the frequency 100. I'm not quite sure what note that is. I just put a number in there. But it's enough to kind of give us an indication that, okay, we've hit the enemy. So let's try that. Alright, so let's go ahead and capture the enemy. Alright, so notice we get that nice little Again, the speaker on the Circuit Playground Express isn't necessarily the best, but it's enough to give us some feedback that yes, we've done something. And I'm going to go ahead and capture it going the other direction. So the next step of this is obviously, no one's going to stand there and, let themselves be caught. So our enemy needs to move. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to introduce random numbers. So when our hero catches the enemy is going to move to a different location. So in order to do that, we need to do a couple of things. So let's do random seed. And what random seed does is that it creates a starting point for our generation of random numbers. If you don't put this in here, this idea of the random seed, I know it seems kind of silly, you're going to get the same random numbers every single time. So it's not really random anymore. So we need something to kind of use as our key to start our random number generation. So what we're going to do here is we're simply going to get the value from the light sensor. And we're going to use that as kind of like the starting point for our random number generation. Again, there's other things that you can use as well. I've seen programs that use time to also generate the random seed. But in any case, we're going to use the light. So the next part becomes simple. So we catch the enemy, we play the tone, and now we got to move the enemy, which means we have to give the enemy a new value. And nice enough, there is a function called random, which will allow us to specify, two parameters here, the lower bound and the upper bound. Now, one thing to know with random is that it's not inclusive of this last point. So I did 0 to 10 so that I can get the random numbers 0 to 9. Again, there's a separate video that goes a little further into random numbers. So right now I'm going to leave it like that. Trust me, we need 0, 10 in order to get the enemy, to possibly pop up in any of the neopixels. All right, so let's run this and see what happens. Okay, so here's our hero, and what we're trying to test out right now is that when we catch the enemy, does the enemy move, or does it sit there and take it? All right, so let's do this. I'm moving around. So the other interesting side effect with having the enemy move to a random number, notice we only get to play tone once, so it's not as annoying. So now I'm going to go the other way, catch it again. So notice we're chasing them around. Every time we capture, it moves to a different location, and it's our best guess to choose the shortest distance to travel to it, because this will be a timed game once we get into some of the later videos. So let's go back to our presentation and let's review what we've done. So in this video of lesson 2, we introduced the enemy into our game, and we saw how we can create an if statement to check to see if we've quote-unquote caught the enemy. But the enemy's smart. Again, it's not going to sit there and take it. So we've added some extra things to move the enemy to a new location every time the hero catches it. All right, so hopefully your mouth is watering for the next step, which is, how do we actually win the game? Enjoy.